and welcome to the Virtual Business Owners Network on Friday, the 8th of December. And we have a presentation today from Seamus and Marie McCarthy. And the presentation will be, they will just discuss the power of how to bridge the human spirit into the business for tangible results. This includes how neuroscience and neuro leadership can assist you achieve these results. So without further ado, Seamus and Marie, take it over. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alec. Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Marie, for the co-prep and development as well of what we're going to share today. And I suppose, Alec, this came from the last couple of weeks. I think we've had some brilliant presentations coming towards the end of the year around business planning and prep and review and reflection and prep for 2024. And we've had some really great presentations from members around like the finance planning, the business planning, the typical activities, I guess, we associate with business planning around this time of year, of preparing for business plans, financial planning, forecasts, all that practical stuff, let's call it. We've had some really fantastic presentations as well around tools and productivity from Sean and some of the other guys. And we thought, today was a brilliant way of being able to focus maybe more on the people. And the focus on health and well-being in particular. And that's really what Marie and I have focused on for today, is to really blend everything that's been covered so far around the invitation to think about the practical side of business planning and business prep, which you've done the last couple of weeks, but to really, really bring a complete focus into the person and how we show up as people for ourselves and for people in our teams and even people in our families. So we thought long and hard about the title and human spirit, and we were kind of even maybe inviting people to reflect on when they saw this title, how were they engaging with this? Is this something they thought, oh God, this sounds a bit too out there? What are we going to actually learn from how to bridge human spirit, and what does that mean? And I suppose in 15 or 20 minutes time, we hope to have some practical bridging tools, I think, around what it means around the focus on person, and maybe the idea that this is something that people can really harness and use in practical ways of identifying what human spirit means and how people's relationship with themselves and other people in their businesses will be a driving force for business growth, business development from a foundation of personal business growth and personal growth and development too. So that's very much the essence of what we're going to speak about, and blending that in with everything that's been discussed in this group over the last couple of weeks and probably right throughout the year as well. So with that, we're just going to maybe look at, this is the agenda we want to cover. So really just an intro and overview, which we're at right now. Your best asset. I'll speak to just the first couple of slides myself, and then Marie will complete the session today with a focus on the science and why what we speak about, why that human connection, why that personal growth and development can be such an asset in modern business, and give examples how large businesses, established businesses, are using the tools that we'll talk about in a practical way of developing and growing your business in a way that you might not have considered important before. So that's the essence really of what we're going to cover today. So with that, I'll just jump into really the first part, which is really about, for me, is about taking the opportunity to stop. And everything I do in my work, and the starting point for every piece of work I do with every client, whether it's an individual, a family, or group, is to simply stop and breathe. Like I'm doing right now. Just take a breath, and take a minute just to slow down, because we're so used to and so conditioned, I think, to doing the business planning, the stuff we talked about earlier on, like the doing, the going, the forcing and planning and pushing, that we forget about opening the door to ourselves. And I think that's the invitation for the first half of the session today, is to really take the time to stop and reflect and begin to open a channel to personal growth and development from the inside that's going to serve you personally from the inside out. And through that mechanism, create a space or a channel for you to be able to actually apply that in your family, in your community, but more specifically in your business. So that's really the invitation today for the first half of the session, is to take deliberate time and effort to create space to stop, first of all, and to create some clarity. Because with stopping and with creating that space, you're already on the pathway to be actually creating more clarity around, well, what are the biggest business challenges you have? What are the biggest personal challenges you've got? Are they connected? By creating some time to actually reflect on and jot down, which we'll do in a couple of minutes, around, well, what are your current biggest personal challenges? What are your current biggest business challenges? By taking the time just to stop and not force and not push and not chase solutions, but to actually just stop as a mechanism to actually experience, and back to that word experience, what it feels like when you do stop and not try and chase or push or force solutions, you can find that through that process of stopping and connecting, you develop a coherence, which is a heart math tool, and which this comes back to the title of today's session, Human Spirit. You're opening a channel to human spirit through that stopping, through the breath, through taking those three or four deep breaths of creating space to actually access information that you might not have necessarily accessed before because you're so busy in the out externally focused doing, that when you take that time to stop and breathe and connect from the inside out, you're creating a space that allows new ideas, new approaches, new perspectives to emerge. That only comes through experiencing and practicing the practice of simply stopping and allowing to emerge ideas and perspectives that are simply not accessible when you're so busy doing and forcing and pushing and it's really about a blend of doing the practical things, the business planning things we talked about, but also blending that with creating space like we're inviting you to do today. So what I'd like everyone to do today is to, in the next minute or so, just in silence, jot down at least one current person business challenge and at least one current personal challenge. So one personal challenge, one business challenge, just off the top of your head. Shouldn't take long because these are things we probably know already automatic off the top of our heads. What are the biggest things we really need to focus on right now? So just take that time in silence right now, and we'll tie that back into takeaways towards the end of the session today, how we would like you to actually begin to practice setting time aside to engage with those particular challenges. So let's do that now, just in silence for the next minute or so. So with that space, and again, this is just a short example of the power of stopping and slowing. So I hope you've had a chance, even in that minute, to begin to experience, and it's back to that word experience, and then practicing and engaging with a practice that you might maybe have discounted before or not valued before. And it's an invitation for you to sit in silence and really experience what that feels like. And that's the first step, I suppose. So that this ties in, I suppose, to the next slide, which we wanted to share, which is around some really, really insightful research from Adair HRM, which is only released in the last couple of weeks from a survey they've just completed in 2023. And it's a survey they completed with some of their customers around what are the biggest current business challenges that you're facing. And the interesting thing about these business challenges is that they're all people related. So everything shared on this slide here around engagement levels, team connection, culture, communication, collaborative practices, it's all people focused, people based. And if you look at the 2022 results, they're looking at very, very similar issues from previous years. And I'm going back 15 years when I was in the corporate world as well, and to working with clients I'm currently working with. And the challenges from 15 years ago are the same challenges as last year and the year before and the current year. And I think the invitation here from Reed's and my perspective is to look at why isn't there a change, or isn't there an improvement in the shift from what were the biggest challenges last year into what are currently even more serious challenges this year. So you look at engagement of employees, collaboration practices, culture as being big problems last year. They're even bigger problems this year. So the invitation of what we're speaking about today is to actually look at things from a different perspective. Look at things to engage with yourself and your employees literally from your inside out through the practices we've just described as part of that, which is taking time to really reflect, engage, and thinking about different ways of engaging with your biggest business challenges and your business personal challenges, and identify where they may be coming together, because we're all people first. And by better engaging and understanding with our personal challenges, I think it puts us in a much better position to be able to engage and apply those personal growth and development opportunities, and apply those in the business context as well. And again, just to complete, my part of the session today, just the invitation again is to look at how we take what we've done as part of capturing those personal and business challenges right now. So what do we do with those things? How do we begin to get beneath those and engage with them, and blend them with the financial planning, blend them with the tools and the productivity tools we've talked about in the last couple of weeks? How do we actually now begin to blend a human engagement approach to coming up with the best personal growth and development strategy that feeds into our business growth and development strategy as well? So again, the question here is, do you feel there's merit in investing time in your personal health and well-being as a strategy in your overall business strategy? And my strong belief, and Marie's strong belief, is yes, of course, there's a huge part that doing this personal work contributes to creating a foundation from within ourselves as a leader within our business to actually encourage our teams to engage better once we're engaging better with ourselves as well. So it's a true ripple effect from doing this work, creating the foundational work within ourselves as people, as individuals, that flows into in a really natural way when we engage and practice this in practical terms of creating space to actually engage with those biggest business and personal challenges in a way that allows us to go beyond thinking about the obvious solutions. So again, the key takeaway from this slide here is that the invitation to think beyond the obvious may apply in some cases where you're dealing with your biggest business challenges. Often the obvious solution is the best solution, but there are times when you're engaging in strategic planning, when you're engaging in growth and development, and you're engaging maybe in deeper personal work that is designed to help you create a foundation for improved personal success, but also applies to improved business growth and business success. The invitation I would like to make to you, and this will be reinforced through what Marie shares in a couple of minutes, is an invitation to sit with the challenges you've identified in a quiet space. So take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes just to disconnect, to stop, and open up a channel of coherence, basically, through that heart-focused breathing that I mentioned earlier. So when you're really sitting in that space, you're simply, and imagine opening a channel to solutions that were simply not available to you before because you were so busy on the external focus. So the invitation is to see how this works for you. It may be that you want to sit for 5 minutes and then maybe go and do something that you enjoy doing. Maybe it's playing with the kids, or cutting the grass, or shifting the snow away from the driveway, whatever it is, but something that takes you away from forcing solutions and looking for the obvious solutions, and maybe going with obvious solutions. The invitation here is to experience what it feels like to create a space to slow down, disconnect, create coherence within yourself, and allow unobvious, probable solutions to emerge that wouldn't have emerged before through that practice. So I think that's the invitation, that's the opportunity for me in every person and client I'm working with, is the power of experiencing what it feels like to have the light bulbs go off when you have the discipline to actually persevere and use this as a practice for personal growth and development, and then see how that actually ripples into your business and ripples into allowing other people in your business and even in your family to engage with you in a better way that they might not have engaged before, because you've created this internal foundation, which is very intangible, but it actually can show up in very tangible ways when you allow and engage with that process. So that's it for me for now. It's an invitation to do that, to practice, and to persevere with that practice, and be open to experiencing how that works, or maybe it won't work for you, but at least the invitation is there to try, persevere, and engage in this process as you would with developing your business plan, as you would to evaluating productivity tools. It's part of the overall blend of business success. So that's it. So Marie, over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks a million, Seamus. That's hopefully got some people thinking. And I suppose, a lot of people always ask, what is a mindset coach? And what I love about this, and especially around neuroscience, is bringing a lot of scientific-based evidence into what Seamus has said as well, and how that connects in with us as humans and the impact it has on us as humans, ultimately on our business, and ultimately on our family life and relationships. So I suppose, what is neuroscience? And basically neuroscience is the study of your nervous system. So it includes your brain, your spinal cord, and nerves. Now, how it's connected is through what's known as your vagal nerve. It's the longest nerve that runs through your body, and it runs from the back of your brainstem here at the back of your head, and it runs all the way down your spinal cord, and goes off into little networks around your body. And when we talk about neuroscience, and the work I do as well with clients, very linked in with what Seamus is doing, you've three brains to think about. You have your head, your heart, and your gut. So you ultimately do have three brains. And how that shows up, I suppose, is there's over 100 billion neurons in your brain. There's 40,000 neurons in your heart, but there's 100 million neurons in your gut as well. So you can see kind of the linkage between it. And a way of thinking about this is, if sometimes you say, my head is telling me one thing, but my gut is telling me another thing. That's your third brain in action. That is your neurons being fired from your brain into your gut and kind of sparking up something. Sometimes you say, I just have a gut feeling about someone. I can't put my finger on it, but I just have that gut feeling. That actually is your third brain in action and working. Sometimes as well, and I'll talk about alignment in a minute and stuff, but if people suffer from stress, anxiety, frustration, it can manifest itself a lot of the time in the stomach as digestive problems. So like IBS, flare-ups, just issues around their digestive system. And again, it's very much linked back to your overall state and how you feel within yourself. But the neuroscience really helps you to understand your own mindset and your nervous system, and shows you the linkage between your brain, your thoughts, and emotions. And I'll make sense of it in a minute as to why, when Seamus talks about taking the time and just taking that moment and taking that breath, why that's so important, but also the benefit of it for you, and that you can avail of within minutes. It's not something that you have to sit down and meditate for an hour. It's great if you can do that, but it's all about being able to, I suppose, understand your mindset and rewire your mindset in ways that suit you better and allow you to achieve more in your personal life and in your business. And neurons that fire together get wired together. So I suppose your personality creates your personal reality. And oftentimes when I'm talking with clients and stuff, they have this thing that they think, oh, I'd love to be more this, this, and this. And they always put it as an external thing that's outside of them. But actually, it's all actually internal, and the power is in you to be able to rewire your brain so it suits you better to live happier, more fulfilled, more on purpose. And when you think about the brain and the neuroscience, you have your conscious mind and you have your subconscious mind. So I'm going to do a little quiz to see who's awake. And we're going to do a fun quiz. So I want you to put into the chat, what percentage do you think you operate from every day from your subconscious mind? So just throw a percentage in there, what you think you operate daily from your subconscious mind. So your subconscious is like you're on autopilot, you know, you're in the car, you're going to the shop, you automatically get to the shop and you don't even remember the drive. You're on autopilot. So let's just see, and maybe who go, okay, 25%, let's see, 45%, 33.33%. Who said that? Cormac. Alec, 80%, Man is 70%, Andrew. Okay, and the prize goes to John Hellaway, 50. And the prize goes to Andrew. You were close, but almost there. It's actually 95% of the day. So 95% of the day, right? 95% of your brain's activity is coming from your subconscious mind. So you're on autopilot. So if you want to go about making a change, if you're operating from the same paradigms, the same learned behaviors, the same thought process, you're going to find it much more of a struggle. If you want to implement something in the business, or there's something happening in the business, you're putting together a strategy, marketing strategy, you want to evolve the business into something different. If you're constantly operating from that 95% subconscious mind, then it's like pushing a boulder up a hill. And the reason, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in the next slide, the reason why it's so important then to take that time and develop the skill of you controlling your brain, you controlling your thoughts, you controlling your behaviors, it has a ripple effect. And the more you do it, and as Seamus said, the more discipline you have around it, the quicker you get at it. And the quicker you start to see the magic, the more you'll want to do it. And this is what I really experienced. So I would invite you just for a second to think about, if you are more conscious of your thoughts and your behaviors, what would that bring to the challenges that you just wrote down for your personal and your business life? How would that enable you to work on those a little bit easier, with less stress and with less anxiety? Would it be easier? Would it be harder? What do you think? Just something to think about, okay? And the nervous system, I always loved this slide when I saw it when I was studying neuroscience and stuff. I love this slide because I'm very visual. So I like to think of our nervous system as a traffic light system, right? So you have your green, amber, and your red. Now your brain is predominantly there to protect you from danger. That's its ultimate job, as well as many other things. But ultimately, it's going to scan your environment. It's going to scan your system, and it's going to see, am I safe or am I under threat? And a lot of the time, like why mental health is on the rise, there's lots of study and research being done at this at the moment. And it's really fascinating, is there's a psychological mismatch. Our brains haven't evolved at the speed of what society and life has evolved. And we struggle to keep up with life business, society, we live in a capitalism world, so there's lots of stuff that are, you know, you must have this, you must do this. There's a lot of like what Billy Joe Blogs has. And the problem is we're staying in the amber and the red zones too much. And we're not allowing ourselves the time to come back down into the green. And as I said, the more you develop this skill, the more you get better at it, the quicker you can become aware of what's happening in your system and bring yourself back down into the green zone where you're settled, you feel grounded, you're calmer. And what happens in your brain is when you take that breath, as Seamus says, and you tune into your heart, maybe in your gut for a minute, and you just slow down, what happens is you're just telling your brain you're safe and not under threat. And what it does is it moves you from the limbic part of your brain to your prefrontal cortex here, which is known as your executive brain. So it's amazing for problem solving. If you have to think about an issue or something comes at you, you have that ability to go, I actually need a second here. I need to think about this. And what happens is the more ideas come, it's where your ideas flare. You can think more creatively. So this is brilliant for anyone in the creative space. For anyone, it's amazing. And what happens is when you train your brain and you train to become aware of your own system, you know when you're in the red and when you're in the amber. And you know how to quickly bring yourself back. And that can be as simple as taking 3 slow, deep, meaningful breaths. Because what it's doing is, say a tiger came into the room here to me right now, right? Came in the door. Of course, I'm going to go into my fight or flight. Of course, I'm going to evoke my sympathetic nervous system and go, can I fight it? Can I flight it? So can I run away from it, right? But if I start to do 3 deep breaths, then my brain knows there's no danger. The danger has passed and I'm calm. And the importance of that when you're in business is there's a lot of people pulling off you when you have a business. You have employees, you have family. When you're a small business as well, it's all on you. So you're never off from the business. You can't ever find that time to switch off. So it's really important to try and understand when you're constantly in the doing, you're not actually accessing your executive function. You're not actually calming yourself down so that you can come down to the green zone and have the ability to, I suppose, think clearly, not react to certain situations, maybe like we often would. And I suppose that's when you have a team, and it shows up a lot of the time with neuro leadership, how you react to situations, how you react to problems when they come. And when you develop this habit, it's almost like time freezes for a second and you have the ability to go, hang on a second, I need to just press pause. I need to just take a minute. And sometimes it can be as quick as a minute. When you develop the ability to rewire your brain and to understand your nervous system yourself so that you can make the decisions clearer, maybe with more compassion, maybe with less reactions emotionally. It's a great one around Christmas when sometimes you have to put up, do boundaries and you have to deal with the in-laws and all of that jazz. And I don't like this and I don't like that. It's a brilliant way to understand actually what happens within your system when people say things or do things to you and how you react to it. So in business, why then is it important in terms of neuro leadership? So it always, as Seamus said, starts with yourself first. And once your understanding of yourself, it kind of is like this magic thing opens up and you start to see things a lot differently. You understand things differently. So neuro leadership was developed. It was a term that was coined by a guy that's known as David Rock. He is an author of Your Brain at Work. And he developed this particular model. It's called the SCARF model, and it stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Now, I won't go into like all of that, but it's a really good model that we use sometimes in corporates and with coaching around what people are feeling and how they react to news or how they react to situations, or their engagement levels, their productivity levels, and all of that. So I suppose it kind of grew out of the need to understand about how we could be better leaders and be more effective at leading others and leading businesses and leading the teams, and about being more human, because a lot of that is kind of lost. And I worked in corporate for a long time, so God, if I only knew this stuff back then, I'd be much happier. I wouldn't have been half as stressed. But the likes of Google and Disney and Microsoft are leveraging the science-based evidence neuro leadership for continued advantage. And it's about understanding of the self and how others and how you're all interlinked. And it's working then understanding your limbic system. Instead of reacting from your amygdala, you're getting fired up, you're annoyed, your response isn't great. It's about taking that minute for and understanding how can I respond maybe a little bit better, and allowing yourself that time. Your emotions and stuff and our learned behaviors are all learned from childhood. So who you are today, as I said, is the basis of what you believe about yourself, your self-worth, how your childhood shaped you as a person today. Because we're all like computers. And when you're a child, up until the age of 8, you're absorbing all this information, and then the computer system shuts down and it gets locked in. And what we do is we look for evidence then in our environment to validate what we believe about ourselves. So it's fascinating when I work with clients and we work on the deep-rooted stuff. A lot of the time it does stem back to childhood, what you believe about yourself, and how your self-worth, any negative talk, limiting beliefs and stuff appear, and how they have an impact in you, your personal life, your family life, your home life, and your business ultimately. And the whole point of this is you want success in both. And we don't have to sacrifice one thing for the other. And a lot of businesses owners that I work with are really, really successful in business, but a lot of the time the personal life isn't where it needs to be. Something suffers, something struggles. And the whole point is you want to bring balance to both, where both are thriving. And you can have whatever you want. It's only you put the limitations on what you want from your life and your business. Because no one can control you. You control yourself, and you control your reaction to other people. And that's, again, back to understanding yourself and your nervous system and how you react in situations and to other people. And that's why, 65% of Fortune 100 companies use neuro leadership. There's a neuro leadership institution, and 65% of Fortune 100 companies use this stuff. And what's fascinating in terms of, I suppose, I was looking at the global state, the workplace report for 2023, it's come out, and it links back to a lot of the challenges there that Seamus identified in the earlier slide. A lot of the workforce are quietly quitting. Nearly 6 in 10 employees are quietly quitting, and they're leaving. So your competition is gaining. You're losing really good people that you've spent time and energy. And again, it's back to the engagement piece. It's back to the culture. It's all about the people. While technology and processes and all that stuff is great, it's always people first. And they did a study, Gallup did a study, they used their best science to train 14,000 managers to become effective coaches, right? So why would you do that? Why would they do that? The result then was 9 to 18 months later, their team's engagement ranged from 8 to 18% higher. So you can imagine if your team is more engaged in your business, what would that mean for them in their lives? They certainly would be happier. They certainly would feel more rewarded. They would feel more fulfilled. And so would you as that business owner. So we have the responsibility when we're in business and we're hiring people and we're working with our customers to generate that space to allow them to thrive, not just about us. The impact then starts, I suppose it starts with us, and then the impact goes in, you know, across the mass and anyone you come in contact with. And I suppose if you look at alignment then with your nervous system, right, again, and yourself, I want you to take a second now, and I'd love to invite you to score yourself. So out of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, how in alignment are you with yourself, your business, and I suppose your communication / awareness with yourself are you? So just be honest. It's not for sharing. Just be honest with yourself. How in alignment are you? And that'll link back to Seamus's questions around what's your personal challenge and what's your business challenge? Because they're all connected. But you have to be honest and face the truth of where you are currently. Because when you know where you are, then you can create a roadmap and work on achieving getting it up to a 10 if it's not at a 10. And again, when you take the time and slow down and you develop that skill, you're rewiring your brain, you're creating that new pathway. So then your brain is quickly able to access it over time. And it goes to that new train of thought and that new behavior and that new thought pattern much quicker than you actually think. So it's just really about, like, you know, reflecting. I suppose this is the other side, like reflecting on what's important to you. Like, do you think this is relevant? Can you see the importance of it, but that you don't have to be a monk for 6 months to access it? You have the ability to do it. And it's only around the discipline of doing it and becoming aware and courageous to explore it. And then I suppose, where are the opportunities for you to apply what we've spoken about today in your life and business? There should be something coming up. And whatever comes to your brain and whatever comes to your thought process, that's the first thing you need to write down. So I'd ask you maybe to just, where do you think are the opportunities for you to apply what we've spoken about today? And I suppose, look, thank you from Seamus and me. Your opinion matters. We're very passionate about this area, the two of us. Obviously, we could talk about it for hours. But we just want to thank you for listening and engaging, being engaged in the chat. And hopefully it kind of maybe gives you just something different to think about when you're doing your planning and your goal setting for next year. Hope that makes sense.
Thank you very much, Marie and Seamus, for a very, very interesting presentation. And I think you've left a lot to reflect on. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.